that will hopefully resonate with the majority of you. Let's look at some compelling facts first that will form the basis of our story. All of us involved with the FMCG industry every now and then hear that 80 to 90% of new product introductions fail. But no one really knows where those figures emerged from, so we won't bother you with this all-time cliche. But recently we came across a number of compelling stats from a number of substantiated sources which paint an equally great picture for branded products. Now, a recent survey revealed that only 25% of all major businesses have the capability to turn great ideas into great products. Another survey indicated that only 20% of brands have a positive impact on consumers' perception of well-being and quality of life, whilst most consumers wouldn't care if 70% of the brands disappeared tomorrow. So what is causing this alarming degree of disconnect between brands and consumers, and what is the role of packaging and consumer research here? To answer these questions, we took a trip back in time when, like supermarkets about 30 years ago, would only typically stock about 200 lines of packaged goods. Now, if sales dropped, the manufacturers would blame the product, so they would look for ways to optimize the formulation. However, the modern retail setting shows a very different picture. There's approximately 30,000 packaged goods available today, some of which offer very similar functional benefits. Consumers are now spoiled for choice but often struggle to identify the differences between the different products. So this has forced manufacturers to use branding as a vehicle for differentiation. So if sales drop today, it's not necessarily the product, but it's the brand that suffers scrutiny under the microscope. Now, this brand-centric approach is evidently a compelling marketing strategy because it has worked for many manufacturers. However, it can really be a double-edged sword if not executed holistically. Sometimes, liked products may fail if there is no congruence in the way the various components of the marketing mix are designed and assembled. Like take Slate 20, for example. Slate 20 was a pre-mixed alcoholic drink aiming at young male professionals who on a night out might have wanted a break from lager. Now, the product was launched, I think it was back in 2006 or 2007, but it was seized 11 months after it was launched. A post-mortem consumer analysis indicated that during blind testing, the product itself performed very well on liking, but when consumers were asked to evaluate the full proposition, which obviously included the brand, the product, and the pack, it didn't stack up in their minds. On the other hand, we have cases like Red Bull, a product which was not initially embraced by consumers due to its uniquely bizarre flavor, but the manufacturer's holistic brand strategy achieved a great degree of congruence between brand, product, and packaging, which in return, of course, placed Red Bull to a leading market position, and not just temporarily, but in the long term. Now, what do we learn from these examples? That liking on its own is not a sufficient enough metric to base your strategy on. One needs to unearth the deeper motivations that drive choices and decisions and embed those in the brand strategy. So let us elaborate on that a little. Now, what is the objective of humans? The sole objective of every human being is fulfillment, and consumers are only human. consumers seek to find fulfillment through meaningful experiences and rewarding choices. Now, on the other hand, manufacturers seek to increase sales via introducing new brands and new products and through catering for several different segments and occasions. Manufacturers need consumers' custom to achieve their objective, which is sales, and consumers need fulfillment in order to become customers. So what could make this relationship work and benefit both parties? We believe that tapping into consumer subconscious to understand how they conceptualize the brand experience is the answer. Where in simpler terms, manufacturers need to have a mechanism in place, if you like, that would allow them to unlock consumers' minds and deep dive into their emotional space to capture not just how they perceive, but also how they interpret a brand's reality. In other words, capture the meaning that consumers assign to the total brand experience. And we know that the brand experience does not start and end at the point of sale. Consumers experience the brand through a long journey that consists of various touch points, and successful brands are those that deliver consistent meaning throughout this journey, not just on shelf. Now again, Red Bull is a fantastic example of that. Advertising, product, packaging, and post-consumption communications all work in harmony all these years. Now, this kind of congruence between the various touch points and amongst their components is what we call consonance. And it's really consonance between product, pack, and communications that Slate 20, the other example that we've seen before, severely lacked, and which eventually led to failure. So the long-term aim of brand owners and retailers should therefore be to achieve consonance between brand, product, and packaging. And at MMR, we have developed a research philosophy that we call BRANDPHONICS that comes with an arsenal of practical tools and is devised to help brand owners and retailers to do just that. This philosophy and its tools are particularly helpful in packaging, and it helps align packaging with product benefits, brand equities, and functional and emotional values. Have a look at successful brands such as Cadbury and Heinz. You know, those brands recognize that in order to gain and retain a high degree of loyalty, but also attract new users into the category, packaging development must be executed in a way that guarantees preservation of brand identity, a dynamic boost on emotional and functional benefits, and great alignment with product sensory qualities and claims. And BRANDPHONICS has been designed specifically to help you achieve all that. But although there is some serious thought leadership and strong research tools which packaging development and therefore brands can benefit from, we have noticed that packaging overall is still seen as an expense. But we feel that brand owners and retailers ought to keep 4 key things in mind. First, that packaging is often present at the awareness stage through ads and commercials. Packaging is always present at the crucial moment of purchase. Packaging is continuously present at the point of use, and it often remains even after the product has been consumed. So it can therefore be argued that packaging is not merely a decorative artifact, but a vessel for innovation and a vehicle to brand success across the entire consumer journey. Still, though, when it comes to consumer research, packaging becomes a sole victim of commoditization. So when packaging research is conducted, it is often at a very superficial level, we would like to say. It's all about locating liking and propensity to buy. And then research tends to be used to validate the end of the innovation process quite often. And this inevitably leads to a beauty contest style approach where the familiar and comfortable thrive and true innovation is driven out eventually. The result of that is either generic packs that play to the masses, or at the other extreme, packs that really fail outside of category conventions, or where a creative route is taken that can't be supported by the brand. And those are typical packaging research scenarios where flat rating scores rate over in-depth understanding, a condition which makes brand owners and retailers quite nervous, and we know that from experience. And they're rightly nervous, and they're nervous because they find themselves trapped in a situation where they have to make a go, no-go decision based on data that provides no clear direction. At this late stage, though, going back to the drawing board is not an option, as such move would have negative financial and individual implications, of course. So in order then to increase levels of confidence amongst stakeholders, they seek comfort through normative databases. But normative databases are not panacea. And there are three reasons for this, we believe. One is that swift socioeconomic changes affect consumer behavior to a degree that is totally impossible to predict and subtract during data analysis. Therefore, any normative database quickly becomes obsolete. The second reason is that consumers are in different cognitive modes when they shop and when they use the product. And that depends on the product category, whether it's a low involvement or a high involvement product, but also the personal situation they are in when they shop and when they consume the product. There's things like time pressure and other like biological needs such as hunger and thirst that really affect their choices. And normative databases do not take any of those parameters into consideration. And finally, when it comes to on-shelf evaluation studies, what normative databases fail to capture is that fixture sizes, setups, and layouts differ considerably among different retailers. So quite often, you end up not comparing like for like. So on that basis, we feel that it is vital that packaging research captures consumers' current behavioral norms. And there is only one way to achieve this, we feel, by inviting a more scientific approach, by inviting scientific consumer research to be an integral part of packaging innovation from the outset of the process. Now, we have been applying this practice with a number of our clients throughout the years, and both their businesses and our business have seen tremendous benefits. For our clients, it's the confidence that they're making the right design decisions accurately, efficiently, and cost-effectively throughout their development process. And for us, it's the sense of achievement, really, that derives from our thorough involvement into those projects. And using our BRANDPHONICS qualitative and quantitative tools, we come in early to cover the entire development process, as and when appropriate, of course. Now, at the exploration stage, our tools allow us to map out the consumer and shopper journey to develop clear understanding of individual and technical constraints and capabilities for both structural packaging and graphics. We extract, at this stage, we extract and collect conceptual information, which consists of a set of functional and emotional qualities, as well as sensory descriptions that consumers use to verbalize how they actually experience packaging obviously within a given category, brand, and context. Now, then we link this conceptual information, brand equities, and the intended product benefits with individual design elements to build a framework around the creative design process. So we don't obviously design packaging, but we build a framework around the creative process, and we provide guidance to the design team. Now, at the optimization stage, we quantify conceptual data to prioritize functional and emotional equities, highlight trade-offs, and define the value equation, which is very, very important. We profile and screen packaging to fine-tune physical and conceptual performance, and to develop a set of actionable guidelines for improving physical and conceptual performance, both on shelf and at the point of use. And then finally, at the validation stage, we come in to support and guide strategic business decisions before launch, and help validate design changes and protect brand distinctive assets at the point of use again and at the point of sale, against key performance indicators, things like shelf standout, purchase intent, stoppability, shoppability, and amongst others. So what I'd like to do next is to have a closer look at how the notions of consonance and conceptualizations work in the context of packaging. I believe you will all agree that it is safe to assume that packaging is a bundle of hedonic, emotional, and functional qualities that are all being communicated to consumers via the pack's appearance, texture, sound, aroma, even flavor these days. Because as we all know, nowadays we can make edible packaging. What happens next is that consumers perceive these qualities via their senses and then instantly assign meaning to them. And they use a wide variety of descriptive phrases and adjectives to verbalize their experience of interacting with a certain pack. Now, we call these phrases and adjectives conceptualizations. And it's those conceptualizations that, in a way, force consumers to then form a response towards packaging, or in other words, a physical and emotional reaction to packaging. And it's those conceptualizations, when you think about it, that ultimately drive consumers' preference and therefore their choices and decisions. What is interesting about conceptualizations is that, especially in the context of packaging, is that they can be directly related to the pack, or they can be related to the perceived quality of the product itself, or it could be related to consumers' individualistic needs and beliefs. So consumers, for example, may describe the appearance of a pack as elegant and modern, let's say, which may consequently increase perceptions of premiumness around the product itself, which in return may make consumers feel proud and reassured about their choices. Now, observing and capturing those conceptualizations as they ladder up, and then quantifying and linking them to physical properties is key to understanding how to best design your packaging. And the same principle applies to texture as well, and the tactile properties of packaging. For example, we know from experience that a slightly rougher surface finish may increase perceptions of freshness and naturalness around the product, which consequently makes consumers feel valued and reassured. And let's face it, I mean, who would really like a noisy bag of crisps, which not only makes the product feel more artificial and less natural, but it also makes consumers feel embarrassed consuming the product in public. And who wouldn't love bakery packaging to emit a pleasant aroma of freshness that would not only strengthen perceptions of quality, but it would make consumers feel relaxed and in a way sense that comfort of nostalgia. I think as an example, just let us now focus on a particular perceptual quality and the conceptualizations around it. Now, premiumness is a very good example of a perceptual quality that is very important for many brands. Quite often, packaging has the responsibility of delivering and communicating this quality to shoppers and consumers. as we have seen so far, placing 2 or 3 packaging variations in front of consumers and asking them directly how premium they find each variation, well, simply won't give you the answers that you need. It is of paramount importance that the development and design teams understand early on what premium means to consumers and to the brand, and how it can be possibly translated into design parameters within a specific context. I guess as top-line rules, we know, for example, that packaging look and feel are the top-tier premiumness drivers, followed by usability and sound in some cases. We also know that premiumness has both experiential and monetary conceptualizations attached to it. So those conceptualizations may vary depending on 4 key factors. The product category, so let's, for example, premiumness in confectionery will command a different packaging design execution to premiumness in laundry. Number 2, the segment you're targeting. Teenagers will probably interpret premiumness in energy drinks differently to young professionals. The occasion you aim to cater for, premiumness in breakfast means different things to premiumness in a social gathering. And number 4, the market you aim to supply to. So depending on the degree of saturation, the market saturation, premiumness means different things across different countries. So what is really important is to find a way to sort of deconstruct premiumness, or indeed any other perceptual attribute. This is not just about premiumness, it's about every perceptual attribute that relates to a specific brand or a product. So deconstructing premiumness or any other perceptual attribute prior to designing is a must-have if you want packaging to carry and deliver an accurate and consistent message across the consumer journey. It is crucial to understand early on what combination of design features and physical properties link strongly with how consumers conceptualize perceptual attributes and a pack's physical and sensory elements. That way, you make sure that with little investment up front, you can get it right the first time and avoid nasty surprises at launch. And this is exactly the headspace of successful global brands. And this is the kind of thinking and practice that Airwick deployed when a few years ago it totally disrupted the air care category with a brand new structural pack. This is how Heinz created a whole new space within an existing category by introducing a brand new pack format. And this is how Asda revamped its entire fish category by redesigning the labels of their packaging. So successful brands not only adopt the type of thinking and practice that philosophies like BRANDPHONICS bring on the table, but they also embrace the notion of cross-functional collaboration because they recognize that by bringing key stakeholders together early in the process, they maximize the chances of developing successful packaging at a minimum cost. It's the collaboration between marketing, R&D, design, and research that can help accurately capture contextual information, which is very important. This is all about the operational environment of packaging. Then understand the individual needs within that context, and also appreciate the commercial and technical constraints and capabilities. So all very important parameters in building a realistic framework of packaging development early on. So in bringing this webinar to a close, I'd like to thank you all for attending, and I hope you found it useful and that we didn't drain all your energy and send you to sleep. And I think we're now happy to answer as many questions as we can.
Thanks, Stergios. That's excellent. Thank you. So I hope that came across nice and clearly for everybody listening. Just been checking with Vicky, and we've had a couple of questions in. The first one, Stergios, that's come on is really asking you about your opinion with regard to the use of eye tracking or facial coding or neuroscience and what role they might have in packaging research.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen those techniques being used increasingly in the last few years, and it's a very good question, actually. And the way we feel about that is that there's two ways of collecting consumer data, and one is using psychological techniques, psychological methods, and the other one is using physiological techniques. They're both quite important, but we believe that if you really want to drill down the detail of things and understand how consumers really feel and how they think, and if you want to be able to quantify this, then you need to invest more into psychological techniques. And from what we've seen today, we've seen how the cognitive system works and how consumers interact with packaging, and in reality, the consumer pack interaction is all based on psychology. It's all psychological. It's all emotional. And therefore, psychological methods can help you get that in-depth understanding. Having said that, physiological methods can come as a very interesting add-on, I guess, and they can offer this added layer of information. What those methods can't do is to tell you why consumers or humans behave the way they do. They can show you what they do, like eye tracking can show you where people are looking at, but it cannot tell you why they look where they look and what they feel when they look where they look. But they're very useful tools, and we use them quite a lot throughout the packaging development process. Sometimes we use them to explore, sometimes we use them to validate. But it's not the beginning and the end of what we do, and I wouldn't advise anyone to rely just on those physiological tools.
Thank you, Stergios. Okay, that's great. And the second one is sort of like a related question. Would you have any advice for those people who are trying to consider whether or not to go for a predominantly qualitative approach to their packaging research or a quantitative approach?
Again, that's a very good question, and we're firm believers that a hybrid approach works best. I guess for any type of consumer research, but especially when it comes to packaging. Because when you come in at the very early stages, at the exploration stages, when before an idea actually gets generated, then you sort of need the space to explore, and you can't really do that with quantitative tools. You kind of need strong qualitative techniques and methodologies to sort of elicit and extract the conceptualizations of how consumers feel and how consumers think or how consumers perceive different perceptual attributes or physical attributes of packaging, and sort of guide the ideation process and the creative process. But then obviously when you move towards the optimization stage, whereby you want to optimize the performance of the physical performance of the pack, or even at the validation stage, then obviously quantitative research is necessary, because you need the large number of respondents to get the statistical confidence that you need in order to make your final decision.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay. We've got another question in. I'll read it out for you. It's how do you believe the increasingly natural appearance and textural properties of packaging will cope with the increasingly technical and mechanical means of purchase, for example, mobile shopper, smartphone, and online techniques?
That is a very good question, and We don't have evidence on that, so I guess we're trying to predict the future in the way that I'm going to answer this question. But I believe, and we've seen that shoppers now increasingly shop online, and although this is extremely convenient, it's the worst enemy of packaging. And because consumers cannot really, or shoppers cannot really experience the physical appearance of the pack. So in a way, they're only allowed to use one sense, which is vision. For that reason, I believe that physical stores will still exist, and because consumers will always feel the need to go back to the physical store and fully experience the pack, all the textural elements, and even the sound or the smell of it. Those are all important elements that complete the sensory experience. I mean, and let's face it, we're humans, and consumers are humans. They cannot live with one sense. They need to simultaneously engage all their five senses. So I believe that in the future, no matter how much online shopping grows, physical stores will still be there, and physical packaging will still be there, and it will be stronger.
Thank you. Thanks, Stergios. That, I think, is the last of the questions that we've had in. So unless any others come through in the next minute or two, we'll probably call it a day. But do please continue to send in any questions to us here at MMR. I'm delighted to carry on the debate with you individually or as a group. And yeah, thanks for joining, and hope you're able to join our next webinar. Thank you very much.